Well, this could be another interesting Q&A session for Zoltar and me. There's quite a few questions here, so I'll try and push through them as quick as I can. Couldn't get to do them over the weekend, but here we are. So first one, hi Don from Janet. Will the lighthouse keeper take photos of Captain Goog and Simon as they pass? Yes, the lighthouse keeper got Simon but didn't get Goog. Goog was a bit far away, about 10 miles or something, but Simon was only a couple of miles, so you probably saw them already and had a bit of a chat as well. So from Fred, this question maybe is answered. Did Captain Goog get to see Cape Horn, maybe in twilight? Actually, to be quite honest, I haven't seen any mention that he did or he didn't. I think he did from a distance. It was just coming on twilight at the time, so I haven't got a definitive answer for that. Adam, Pat Lawless is a St Helena, assuming he gets close to Kirsten and Abelis and the Northwest Progress. Could he share with them information, like weather reports and bits and pieces? Yes, he could, but he'd be considered to be an associated boat because he knows the GGR, and he doesn't have a whole pile of information himself on his boat, on his Saga 36, heading up to Ireland, having a lot of fun and all that sort of stuff. We'll do an update on all the entrants, probably in the next week or so. We'll tell you where everyone is, where Arnaud is. He's having a huge holiday in the Caribbean, and Pat's on his way north. He actually got voted, I just saw the other day, he got voted for Sailor of the Year in Ireland, which is really good. We should find something about that. And Guy is getting on top of sailing his boat very soon, Guy de Boer. Got it back sailing, so there's some interesting stuff going on. We'll do a bit of a story on that. In fact, we may even make it a press release, just update everyone and like a newsletter. So we'll see. Okay, so from Alison, on the live tracker, does the length of the track displayed behind each boat represent their trail for a specific number of hours? How many hours? No, not really. We can vary that. I don't know. You can have the whole track. Sometimes we'll leave that on so you can see it all there. Sometimes it's a short track and sometimes a long one. Usually it's a short track because it can be quite distracting to see all the previous tracks there. But it doesn't relate to any specific distance. And John Edward, how many and who have finished the GGR and Chichester class? Well, none in 2018 finished in the Chichester class. Okay, we didn't have any Chichester finishes. And this year, hopefully, we'll have 2 Chichesters, Jeremy and Simon. So what's with the new setup of the daily tracker videos? What are you doing differently? Inquiring minds want to know. Basically what I've done is got rid of the finger thing where I'm filming it with the camera. We're now using a system called Be Live, which is a software program which we use for all our interviews of entrants. And I'm just doing it a little bit at a time, but in the future we could do lots of different things with that system. We can bring in other people to talk, we can bring in a number of screens, we can do lots of different things and still keep it human because I'm right there. I can cut in on the screen if I want to as well, talk about something at length, and we think it's a little bit more human than just having a flat screen, and it will allow us to do things in the future, remembering that we've got the OGR coming up after this as well. So we're perfecting some systems now. We know what works with the GGR, especially with the website and everything. It's going with gangbusters. And so now we want to try this, but I'm just doing little things at a time. We've still got some issues with the screen. Seems to be trying to get the balance right and get it big enough. I'm not sure how it's going on mobile devices. It may be too difficult. So we're just playing around at the moment. I hope it's not too distracting, but that's what we're doing. It could be good for the future. Okay, John, so what's with the new setup? Oh, we've just done that one. Okay, Elizabeth. Were solar panels already available and used in the first Golden Globe race? They certainly weren't commercially available in 1968. They would have had solar panels back then, but they would have been super expensive. I remember, the prices on solar panels are just going through the floor. They get cheaper and cheaper and better every year. But back in 68, none of the entrants had solar panels. They weren't commercially available. Okay. Ellis, can you ask Zoltar if age is just a number, or so what's the oldest entrant in the GGR to cross the finish line? Well, the oldest is Jean-Luc. He was 73 when he crossed the finish line in 2018, and Sir Robin was the only one to finish in 68, and he was 29 at the time. And there's no one older in this edition either, so that's interesting. So Zoltar, was that correct? Yeah, it was correct. Age is absolutely just a number. I picked a guy for one of our expeditions on the boat once. He was 82. A retired World War II fighter pilot with so many stories about getting shot down and stuff and escaping from prison camps. It's amazing. He's a great guy. Age is really just a number. I used to be 28, but I've had a bit of an issue recently, so now I consider myself to be 29. Okay. Okay, John Edward, could you amazing statisticians put together a comparison between the numbers on Facebook and so on in 2018 versus 22? Okay, so it's hard to define because of different races. We had a lot of interest in 2018 because we lost a few boats and had lots of dramas in the Southern Ocean. But what I can say is the numbers coming off the website now are statistically quite stunning. So the website's driving really solidly, and Facebook and social media is solid, except for the peaks that we got in 2018 when we were losing boats. So, Facebook page, the reach since the start of the race is over nearly 1.6 million people. Instagram's now nearly 900,000. Facebook followers, we've increased another 15,000, so we're up to 55 or 57,000 now. Big thing about Facebook is the number of comments. We like seeing lots of comments, so keep commenting on what's going on, and that's kind of good. But we're up to likes and comments. Nearly it's 460 odd thousand, which is amazing. And comments themselves have been about nearly 44,000. Shares 16,000. Link clicks 132,000. The website, individual hits on the website is now 155 million. Or it's even bigger than that. This was a week ago, so it's probably 156 million now, and that's being generated by nearly 1 million unique visitors to the site, which says a lot because it means when they're getting on the site, they're actually moving around and looking at all the different things they can watch. The technical tours of boats, the technical things, the live trackers, the onboard video clips. There's a lot to absorb in the website. Unique, the big numbers coming off the website, and that'll all be analysed and summarised at the end of the race to give us a media valuation, which is quite interesting. So hard to compare the both. Pascal, do the sailors will still have a stop in Punta del Este? No, we canned that. We don't need it, so they're straight back to Les Sables d'Olonne. Elizabeth, the first Sunday Times Golden Globe race did not start in Les Sables d'Olonne. How was this city in France subsequently chosen? Well, we wanted to start in Falmouth, the same place that Sir Robin set off in 1968, but they basically didn't want us. They had other things they wanted to do. That's the easiest way. We were then going to Plymouth, which we agreed was fantastic, but we had no support there at all. We actually had to pay the council £75,000 to help us organise it, and everything else we had to pay for. And that sucked up a lot of budget. It was going to cost £400,000 for the start, and that's all the money that Jane and I could afford, nearly all, that we could afford to put in the race to run the whole race. So our friends at Les Sables d'Olonne kicked in, and all of a sudden we made the shift here, and it's fantastic. We're in Les Sables d'Olonne right now, and we're very lucky to be here. It's fantastic. They're our biggest and only real supporter, financial supporter for the GGR. They do some incredible things. The community here is really strongly behind us, and so that's it. We're still unable to find a title partner yet, but there's things happening, so let's see what happens going forward. So we just had no support. England's a little bit behind the game, even with our OGR. We've just about given up on the UK to start the race there, and that's where the first Whitbread started, so who knows where, but we're about to announce the start of the OGR very shortly. From SV Ollie Ree. Hi Don, did any of the other entrants prepare their boat structurally as Tapio did? Tapio completely rebuilt his boat. It was an older Gear 36 S&S design, beautiful boat, and we lost it. No one in the current GGR has rebuilt their boat structurally like that. Probably one of the closest might be Ian Herbert Jones. He didn't do that, but Istvan pretty much rebuilt that boat, which was a Tradewind 35. And I think everyone else has just been like massive refits, but not complete rebuilds. That was quite unique for Tapio. Joanne, do the sailors ever really get any snow accumulation on their boats? Do they then need to worry foodstuffs freezing? Well, they wouldn't worry about the foodstuffs freezing because they're down below, and the water's, that generally keeps the boat warm. Even though it gets very cold, it's not frozen inside the boat. Snow accumulation, they can get snow, but it's unusual because we keep them up a little bit high. In my BOC challenge in 1990, we absolutely had snow on the boat. They're certainly getting hailstorms and sleet, and I can't remember anyone mentioning snow, but they've had plenty of hailstorms and stuff, especially when they get around Cape Horn. So, okay, hi Don, how do you scroll the wind through on the tracker page? Well, when I'm on the Yellowbick tracker, once you hit the slider for the weather, which you've seen me do, you're just using the left and right keys down the bottom right hand corner of the keyboard. It's just got a button there, and you just go click left every time you click it. It's an hour. Okay, so Robert, please forgive me for repeating a question I posed and answered several months ago. I'm still hoping to see the documentary of the 2018 GGR. Any news on when this is finally available to stream? Okay, well, just today, this is groundbreaking news. I can tell you that the Voyage of Madman will actually be streamed from the GGR website starting in June of this year. We're still looking for the main distributor, but we struck a deal with our agent, and that means it'll be streaming. It'll be streaming on Amazon, iPhone, and YouTube. Where you purchase movies on YouTube, as well as on the GGR website. And we've got to have. There's a big French distribution streaming video guys here, which we will negotiate with as well. So it's coming in June at the latest this year. You will be able to stream it, and you'll be able to hire it or buy it online. So that's the quickest we could get it out there, and we know that everyone wants to see it. And hopefully then later on we'll be able to sell it into various countries as well. It owes us a lot of money, so we've got to try and recover that. Okay, so Susan, wondering why Kirsten's tweets are always just one word, text. Is there a strategy behind this? Perhaps no news is good news. Kirsten's absolutely got a strategy. She likes to stay focused on board, and she doesn't want to get distracted, although when she does media stuff and she is talking to media off the boat, she gives a really honest, open interview. When we do the weekly satellite phone calls, Kirsten's the same. She just opens up and tells it the way it is. She's a really warm person. But as to the daily text, it's a safety requirement of the GGR. So, we need to know that contact, the daily contact is open, because we use that to contact them, and also that she's on board and okay. So if she comes back with okay, that's fine. That's all we need. It's a safety thing. And she'd rather concentrate on what's going on and enjoy the ride, if nothing else. Okay, there's a couple of other bits in here. Check the profile. Nope, that's fine. So Susan, nope. Hang on, I'm losing that track here. John Edwards, Don and Jane, are you going to invite any of the 3 virtual GGR 22 Sailor Podium winners to the GGR Finishing Awards? No. There is a virtual GGR race going on, and they're racing for the same trophy. There will be a Joshua model there going to them. But at this stage we haven't made any plans on that, but we'll look at that, but not the first 3. We might get the winner of that virtual GGR race. We've been really busy and haven't really promoted it as much as we probably should have, but certainly the winner is racing for the same trophy as the real GGR. Roger, hi Don. Why didn't Simon replace or fix his HF radio when he stopped to fix his hydrovane? Basically, it's not a simple job. Dealing with HF radios, there's a lot of elements that make it work and perform really well. Ian Herbert Jones got a great radio. Simon's always had a bit of trouble, and it could be any number of connections, all the coax connections, the power connections, the earthing connections, the aerial connections, and so on. It can, you're chasing your tail in some ways. You've got to start from the very beginning, and it would have taken a long time, and he was keen to get out of there, so his choice, yeah. But yeah, it's difficult to find problems. You really got to go through and redo the whole lot. Greg, are the celestial navigation calculators that were once around, haven't seen them for 20 years, allowed for competitors in the GGR? No, they're not. Those calculators, you could take a sextant sight and literally put in your altitude into the sextant with a few other bits, and you could go press a few buttons and out pops your position. I used to have one a long time ago, Hewitt Placard one. But yeah, we don't allow them in the GGR. There's no calculators at all. Okay, Leon. Hi, Don. As the race nears the end in a few months, and as it stands now, will abolish have to be ahead of Kirsten by 23 hours in order to take first place? Well, the simple answer is yes, because he got a time allowance, I think, of 11 hours, and Kirsten got a time allowance of 35 hours, I think it was. So that'll be adjusted, but then we've got to adjust for fuel and so on. It would be unusual if the finishes got that close to each other that it makes much of a difference. Well, let's wait and see. They could be a day apart. We don't really know, but yes, the time allowance has to be taken into account. So there will be a provisional finishing time and then a real time. From N.T. In the notice of race stated that entrants must pass through the Punta Leste gate to deposit their photos. Is this still the case? No, it's cancelled, so that one's not on. I should point out, some people on these questions have been putting answers up. Whenever I see people put the answers up to the questions, I delete those answers, because the answers are meant to come now when everyone's watching. It's like a spoiler. So no need to answer these questions online. Hey Don, the tracker list this is from Jenny. The tracker lists the positions of the entrants except those in Chichester class. The tracker, no, the positions of all the boats sailing are on the tracker. I realise the entrant out of the race and cannot be up for a medal, but is there a final ranking for the original entrants? No, there's no final rankings to say, oh, he made it to there and he made it to there. There will be we used to run a picture of the whole lot and say who's first out, second out, third out, but it's really not of significance to us. It's all about finishing. Those that finish, they've achieved something very special. Those that haven't finished have achieved something very special. It's all very relevant, but there's no competition to say who got so far, boom, boom, boom. We just have the finishes of the GGR, and they're ranked. Finishes in Chichester, they're not ranked. It doesn't matter whether first Chichester, second Chichester, whatever it is, as long as they finish, they've achieved something special. And those that retire, well, they've also done something special. I'll never forget Ayrton. I mean, he was the happiest guy ever, and he'd done his GGR and he was fully satisfied, and he retired into Cape Town. The GGR is a very unique type of event. So, and how the entrants left in the race determined, that's pretty straightforward. So, Tapio wasn't 5th and Elliot wasn't 10th. They were just all in the GGR. Philip, are all the names under the cap rail of Kirsten's boat classed as sponsors, and did they have to pay the sponsor fee? Yes, we have a very simple rule about sponsorship, because the first Corinthian entrant, someone who's arrived at the end who's unsponsored, gets a special trophy, and it's a unique situation. Sponsors create huge advantages and assistance to the entrants, but it's quite demanding if you're an entrant to go there. Some of the entrants probably regret getting sponsors, because it can change their attitude towards the GGR. I don't know, I'm looking at the light here, I don't know why I'm doing that. There's the camera. And so some people regret getting sponsors at the end of the day, but generally it's a great relationship for sponsors versus entrants and so on, and but the way the entrant perceives their assistance. Once you start putting names and numbers on the boat, they're all paying the sponsor fee. So Kirsten had to pay the sponsor fee. They're all sponsors and people who have assisted her under the gunnel. And if you're not sponsored, you don't pay the sponsor fee, and you won't see any of those signs on the boat. So they're Corinthian entries. Hey Don, this is from Matt. What self-steering gear would you run if you're in the GGR, and why? Okay, it's pretty simple, and I'm very honest with that. And I've got to say, there's always this funny perception that we have Hydrovane as a partner in the GGR, and I'm very grateful for that and the assistance they give, and they assist the entrants who want to buy one. They get a small discount, but they still got to buy their Hydrovanes. But they have no control over what I say. They have no expectation of me giving them special endorsements and so on. You'll hear me, it hasn't been so much this edition, but in 2018 I was regularly saying, and I still stand by it, if you wanted to use a servo pendulum system, my personal opinion is I'd go Aries every time. In my opinion, the Aries is one of the best servo pendulum systems in the world, and that's through past experience. I used to sell Aries wind vanes for a long, long time in Australia. I sold hundreds and hundreds of them, right? If you want an auxiliary rudder system, I would, without doubt, no questions asked, go for a Hydrovane. I had a Hydrovane on my boat before Hydrovane became a partner in the GGR. The rules in the GGR were all defined and finished before Hydrovane came on board as a partner. So irrespective of whether Hydrovane or a partner, you have to have an emergency rudder system on board the boat. Now, what would I choose? For a GGR boat, usually, well, it depends. What I'm really saying is depend on the design of the boat. If I had a design of a boat like Tapio's, right, when the rudder is way forward at the back of the boat, I would have absolutely chosen a hydrovane from day one, because it puts an auxiliary rudder right at the back of the boat, and you can steer the boat in a more direct straight line because you've got leverage at the back, plus you get a spare emergency rudder, and you've got a well-engineered system. If I had a boat that had a fin keel and a rudder that was pretty efficient and super fast, and I was racing a different way, I may be tempted to go with an Aries servo pendulum system. So the first choice is, what sort of boat have you got, what sort of sailing you're doing, and all this sort of stuff. But certainly for GGR type boats, I would personally go hydrovane virtually every time, because it's got lots of advantages, especially these full-bodied long keel boats. They're really cool, and you cannot deny the advantage of having an emergency rudder system and being able to use your own ship's rudder as a trim tab. Okay, so you can load the boat up, get it moving as fast as you can, which sometimes means you're out of balance. Crank in a bit of rudder on the ship's rudder, lock your ship's rudder in either on the wheel or the tiller, tie it firm, and that helps to compensate, and then you've got your hydrovane steering the boat. I'm just putting a hydrovane on my Swan 57 Ketch, and I'll be happy to do that, even though it's a super modern boat, because a big heavy boat, and putting a rudder right at the back of the transom, in fact right off the back of the bumpkin, is going to do so many more good things for me on my 20 ton Swan 57 than a servo pendulum system would do. But if I had a little SNES 34 I wanted to go, I might be tempted to put a servo pendulum system on, and if I did, it'd probably be an Aries. So every situation is different, but I've got to say I've got great respect for hydrovane because of what the vanes are and what they do, and I've got great respect for all other vanes. People think sometimes that I hate all other vanes. I don't. But wind vanes are very much a safety equipment item in the GGR, and we monitor everything that's happening. We monitored the fact that, wow, it was amazing. Simon smashed his casting on the top of his vane from water, effectively. A big knockdown, bang, he smashed the casting. That's happened before in the past a few times, but usually in marinas. We spoke to Hydrovane about that. I still quiz them on all these issues. It's important for us to know, and it's not the normal thing that happens at sea. Nothing's indestructible. You've got to maintain your wind vanes, very carefully, watching nuts and bolts, because they're machines. Same as a helicopter. If you're not watching nuts and bolts on a helicopter, you've got big problems. So there's lots of issues about wind vanes, and operator error can be a part. If you do lots of modifications and stuff, you've got to be very careful. So that's a long answer to a very short question, but it sort of depends. But my two favourite wind vanes are Aries and Hydrovane, and for GGR it's very hard for me to go past Hydrovane, and that's irrespective of Hydrovane being a partner, and that's always been my opinion and proven in real life. I had a Hydrovane for the GGR a year before or even longer than that, before Hydrovane became a partner. So that's my honest opinion, and we're very happy to have Hydrovane as a partner, and I believe in their gears. I think they do a good job. Okay. Hi Don, what is considered a safe distance off Cape Horn? Benign condition sea state with 4 to 5 metre seas. Well, there's so many variables there. It's crazy. There's no specific safe distance, because is it blowing onto the Cape, or is it blowing away from the Cape? How big is the sea state at the time? What's visibility like? All that sort of stuff. It's as safe as the skipper wants to make it, and there's a big temptation to get close to have a look. I was fortunate when I went around, I had a look. It was night time, but I could clearly see the outline. Simon was lucky, he had great conditions to go up there, got within 2 miles. A lot of the entrants in the last edition, 2018, went around, got a look. And it's a great thing, to be able to see it and get the feel. It's a very emotional moment. It's just overwhelming when you realise, going back hundreds and hundreds of years, all the ships that have gone around there. It's crazy. Deborah, hi Don, is Zoltar also a sailor when he gets a day off to play? I'm not really sure, but I'll never forget I think he is a sailor. He saw Elliot standing there thinking, this is one of my mates, and told Elliot to do the GGR. What a story that is. Anyway, so he must be, yeah. Paul, could a GGR competitor short on water anchor in a bay, leave his boat, blow up a dinghy, he doesn't have a dinghy, find a stream and go backwards and forwards and relay it? He could put his survival suit on, he could swim ashore with his containers, as long as he doesn't go above the high water mark with the tide, high tide, low tide. He can go up to the high water mark, that's it, he's still within the rules. If he steps over the high tide mark, he's gone ashore, and that would be a Chichester. So it could be possible. Cassero, I wish I was big. I think that's because Cassero's building a mini Globes 580, one like my tracker, which I just sold, by the way. And stand by for that news. You're going to laugh when you hear about what's happened, because I don't know I'm not going to say anything, but there's a connection to the GGR. I just sold tracker. So yeah, he's building a 580, and I think he wants to do the GGR. It's not uncommon either. Anyway, but it could be reversed. Golden Globe race. No more question, please. I was trying to stop everyone asking questions, but we're just about to the end. John, would you consider asking your amazing edit team to occasionally convert a photo of the 22 entrance to black and white to give more vintage look? We could do this. There is actually already a lot of black and white pictures of portraits and so on. So we'll have a think about that. But yeah, there's some already exist. Margaret Keys. Hi, Margaret. Hi, Don. When do racing boats need a total rebuild? After circumnavigation, many parts of the boat have been stressed to the limit. Which needs the most attention? Well, a lot of the GGR boats get sold to entrants to do the next GGR, and that's happening right now. Ayrton's just sold his boat, and some others have as well. We've actually just filled up the 7 rustlers for the 2026 GGR. One of the guys had tried to buy Ayrton's boat, but he didn't get it, and another guy got it, and so he's now going to buy a different design. So it opened up, but we just took another entry on Friday of last week, which has put another Rustler 36, a really nice one. It's been fully rebuilt, ready for the race. He takes delivery of that in March, in another month or so. So all the Rustler spots are taken up, and anyway, but the boats that do one edition of the race and get taken on board for the next one, they have to go through and make a decision, because often the gear looks really good. And I'll give you the example of Graham, who didn't make the start, unfortunately, for medical reasons. He bought Jean-Luc's boat, Matmut, which had gone all the way around the world, and he could have probably taken a decision to reuse and redo a lot of stuff because the same boat, but in the end, a lot of it was rebuilt. The rig was redone. The had to look at sails being redone and all the deck gear and engines and blah blah blah. So you've got to do a complete sweep of the boat and just decide, pull everything apart and make a definitive, choice on go back to new or not. So it's hard to describe, but we're very particular in terms of the GGR standards. A surveyor has to go over the whole boat and sign it off. It's independent surveyor from everyone. Got to sign off the hull and the deck and the structure, and then another independent rigger has to go all over the rig and sign off the survey on the rig. So there's a lot to do. So that's why it's only 4 years apart. By the time the GGR is over, it's nearly only back to 3 years. And we've got a growing entry list in 26, which we don't talk about yet until July of this year, when this edition of the GGR is finished. Then you'll see the entrants that we have announced and so on. But we've only got 26 places, and they're filling up fast. So that's it. Yes. So thanks for that, and we'll be back. We might not do a question and answer this week because there was a lot of questions there, and we might leave it for a week and then do them again the week after that. So thank you very much.